Hello, welcome to my video channel, my tarot reading video channel. Today I'm going to be doing a reading for 2020 as a total, with obviously with regard to how things are going to possibly work out with the COVID-19 situation, which is obviously a massive thing this year. So I thought I would do like a forward reading incorporating, the general overview of what might come up, how it might end, what results might be. So let's see what the tarot has to say about that. Well, unsurprisingly, at the centre of the reading is the Death card. Now, obviously that can mean literally death, although it very rarely does. But obviously, on this occasion, with COVID-19, sadly, many people have lost their lives. So there is that literal interpretation of it. But for most of us, it will mean an ending and a transition to a new beginning. And I think that is a card that has actually come up a lot in a lot of the readings that I've done recently. We are all experiencing endings of different sorts, endings of the way we've lived our lives, the ending, hopefully not, but possibly of relationships. People have been in lockdown together and found that actually it's not working as they hoped, and all sorts of things can happen in this extremely unusual and unprecedented situation. So it's not surprising to find this at the heart of the reading. However, as with all endings, there is hope for new beginnings, which is represented by the sun rising over the hills here. But I think these little figures down here sort of represent us and how we've been feeling probably, these rather small helpless figures in the face of this overwhelming situation, whether it's death or not, but there's that feeling of the immutability of fate, and we've had to acquiesce, we've had to give in. There's not been really an alternative. So that sort of sets the scene, which we are all aware of, so I don't think there's anything new there. But obviously it is accurately reflecting where we find ourselves. It's crossed by the card of the Hanged Man, which throws a little more light on the scene, if you like. Traditionally, this can mean literally hanging about, waiting to see what happens. But actually, it's also a card of sacrifice. Prometheus here stole fire from the gods to give it to mankind. Just a quick mention, this is the mythic tarot, which is based on Greek mythology, which actually contains archetypal myths which reflect so many aspects of the human experience. So I find it very resonant for my readings, and I have been using it for a long time. So anyway, here we go. So the Hanged Man here, he's punished by the gods for stealing fire. So he knew, to help mankind, he knew there was going to be some voluntary sacrifice involved. Need I say more? We've all been asked to make that voluntary sacrifice to help everybody. So this is a very strong card of that. It can also mean giving up, sort of perhaps ideas that we've held on to, perhaps, stubborn pursuit of something, or an unobtainable fantasy, all those things maybe that, have been attitudes that we've had. It also means perhaps sacrificing those. So it can be an inner sacrifice, a change of a way of thinking, a change of a way of being, as well as that sacrifice we've all made for each other by staying home, and people who are working in the the care industry or the care services, the NHS and so on, and all the other services, the supermarket workers and delivery drivers, all those people who've kept everything running while we've been sacrificing our freedom to enable them to hopefully stay healthy. So Yeah, not a surprising card to find here either. And it is surprising how often some of these cards have appeared in all the readings I've been doing, and I have been shuffling very well. So I think, yeah, so definitely this is what's been going on. At the top of the reading, this is the card that's throwing its influence over, the whole of the reading, and if you like, the upcoming year, which is what I'm reading for. Now, this is really a card of strife and conflict, difficulty actually coming out into the open. The card immediately prior to this, the Two of Swords, is about being unable to face a situation, and there's a figure in it with his hands over his ears between two conflicting people holding swords. But in this occasion, this is a Three of Swords. That conflict has moved on from an inability to make a decision into this sort of rather what you might consider open conflict, or an action here. Obviously, someone's getting murdered. I won't go into the myth behind it, but if you know the myth of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon, you'll know she has good reason. But it's not really about bad luck or fate bringing us something awful. It's really about how we've contributed ourselves to a situation. So I think that mankind as a whole, we could, with this card, we could look at our actions of how we've contributed to this bloodletting, if you like. I mean, I suppose you could look at it and say, the pressure of humanity on wildlife. If the COVID-19 did originate in those wet food markets, it may be the way we look at animals and treat them, and also, bringing just a proliferation of humanity where we're, coming up cheek by jowl with wildlife, and they're transferring their viruses to us. I mean, by the way, in case you're not aware, I happen to know because my father was a microbiologist, that virtually all human diseases, virus diseases, originate in animals. So, it's, yeah, we've contributed to it in a way by our actions, but also, I think it's about the releasing of that poison, if you like, too. It's made us very aware of those issues, and aware, perhaps more aware of the environmental issues that we've created. I mean, many of us are aware of them and know about them, but there is a considerable inertia involved with governments and so on, and the powers that be, which seem to make it almost impossible to move forward on that. But I think this break with coronavirus and COVID-19 has perhaps shown us how, with just a little bit of easing off the pedal, how nature can recover. And I'm hoping that that will give added impetus, to the, if you like, the ordinary man on the street, if you like, who now, well, for instance, in Delhi, where they can see the Himalayas for the first time in 40 years, and, all that kind of thing. And Venice, the canals becoming clearer, and wildlife returning to places they haven't been seen for a while. So this is really a card of reckoning. We have contributed to where we are, and so I think we have all been reflecting on that. So that's at the top of the reading, and we're reaping what we've sown, essentially, is what this card is saying. But underpinning the reading is this lovely card, which is the Star. Now this is based on the myth of Pandora, who has been forbidden to open the chest, but her curiosity knows no bounds, which actually, in some ways, I can see as an analogy for humanity, really. Our curiosity knows no bounds. We've pushed forward civilization, technology, everything that we have in modern life has been as a result of that, that curiosity that pushes us forwards to constantly create and renew and advance, or allegedly advance, perhaps, not with the best amount of wisdom. But anyway, Pandora is forbidden to open the chest, but of course she can't resist a peek. And actually what's in the chest are all the evils of the world, which are released then into the world. all the sins and all the negative things. But at the bottom of the chest is the little star of hope. And I think that is very telling in our situation now. Hope is not something that you can will into being. It's an integral part of being human, where when our backs are really against the wall and things look very bleak, there's part of us that never gives up hope. It's a mystery. It's a massive thing that keeps moving us forward, even when times can seem quite dark. So the star of hope is there, the hope for something new, perhaps something better to come out of this enormous shock that we've received to our way of thinking, our way of being. I think that people have taken this time to think things through. We've had the gift of time to be able to reflect on, what's important to us. What is important in life, and the star there represents hope. So we have hope. So let's see what else the cards have to say. So we're moving away from the tower. The tower is the only sort of man-made edifice in the cards. This is the major arcana card, the tower. And as you can see, it's sort of crumbling. And now that, again, is not surprising to find this card here. Again, all the cards can be read on many levels. This can literally mean, the structures of our lives and society and countries and the world, have taken a big hit. The economy is set to look pretty rough for quite a while. So a lot of the structures that we're accustomed to are crumbling. But it can also mean, be read on a psychological level, that the tower can represent that facade, or mask, if you like, that we wear in public, which depends on assessing and valuing ourselves on that mask that we present to the world. I'm not saying that we go around being false or anything like that, but I think as an integral part of being human, we have lots of different roles. We go out with a professional person, with the whoever, mother, father, parent, brother, sister. We have lots of different roles in life, and I think this particularly represents the face we put to the world, perhaps the acceptable face, the diplomatic, kind, polite person, the person who dresses appropriately, and there can be a deeper inner side to us, which maybe in the hurly-burly of life we tend to not realise or not look inwards and find our roots, our true strength. And I think that possibly in this period there has been an element of that going on. People have had to reflect, had to perhaps come face to face with certain issues that maybe normally we don't have time to consider. And there is a lot of strength to be gained from integrating, the darker, darker self, and combining it with, the smiling face that we put to the world. So it's a card of big changes, inner and outer, and I think that's something we've all been going through. Now, just in the near future, just coming up, this is a good card to have here. It's about generosity. It can be generosity of ourselves and giving to people our time, our help, where we've been so supportive of each other as much as we possibly can be, and on the wider scale, just even if you've stayed home, supporting people. So we've all been involved in giving generously for the greater good. But this could also mean, I'm wondering if it means, obviously a lot of us have taken quite a hit on our income, and the government has promised to help out in various ways. But I'm wondering if this doesn't mean, this is King Minos who's offering the Six of Pentacles to Daedalus, who's come to his court. And, you know, in a way, the king sort of represents the government. And I'm wondering, you know, if maybe something like universal basic income or something's going to have to come in, because I know a lot of people are slipping through the net who don't tick all the boxes, you know, on filling in forms for various things, and or fall just below or just above limits for various things, and nonetheless are having difficulties. So we it's also, it's the whole system really has been very top down, and that's been particularly acute since 2008, when the taxpayer, i.e. you and me, poor little people down the bottom, bailed out the big money. Now, I don't know about you, but I felt that was a tremendous injustice, and it was all about shoring up and propping up the old system, if you like, the capitalist system, which we're all led to believe will be the saviour of us all. However, I think it's become very apparent that actually that system benefits a few a great deal, and the rest of us have suffered considerably. So I'm wondering if, you know, in the coming year, I mean, we've already seen the Tory party sort of bringing in what you might call socialist policies, because actually socialist policies to a degree are what we need. Fairness across the board for everybody, equal opportunities, and proper pay for people who do what are normally considered to be the basic jobs, you know, people in care homes and, you know, dustmen and delivery men, all those people who are considered, you know, to be on minimum wage. Actually, they're vital to the economy, and they ought to be respected as such. You know, it's all very topsy-turvy, the system we have at the moment, and I think maybe this reflects a change. The Knight of Swords is represented by the warrior twins, Castor and Polydeuces, who are sons of Zeus. Now this is really a sign in the suit of swords, which is about mental energies, the mental journey of using the mind in creative ways. And they're, as you can see, riding a prancing horse, moving forward. This represents the force of ideas, sudden ideas and changes of direction, inspiration, sometimes to the detriment of human relationships in a way. You know, it's all about the idea, you know, rushing off after the idea, and regardless of who gets trampled on by the prancing horse. But it does throw another light on, it throws a light on what's called the significator, which was the first card. So it's really about how to move forward. We need inspiration. We need, you know, exciting new ideas, something fresh. So the Knight of Swords is really about moving forward, you know, not looking back, moving forward with inspiration. The environment we find ourselves in, this is quite interesting. This is the King of Cups, who traditionally is seen as the figure of the wounded healer, somebody who cares about others, wants to look after others, but actually is in need of healing himself. So I suppose that could be an analogy for society, really, or the environment we find ourselves in. At the moment, it's all about healing, you know, healing the people who are sick, supporting the NHS, helping each other. There's this great uprushing of compassion towards ourselves and others, and society. And also in this deck, this figure here is represented by Orpheus, who plays his lyre so beautifully that when his wife dies and is taken to the underworld, he goes down and so enchants the ruler of the underworld with his playing that he agrees to release his Eurydice, who's his wife, Orpheus's wife, on one condition, that as she follows him out of Hades, out of the underworld, that Orpheus doesn't look back. If he looks back, he'll lose her. So he walks out of Hades with Eurydice following However, at the last minute, he can't resist turning around to make sure she's following, and he loses her forever. So I think in the current circumstances, as well as this strong thing of the wounded healer, I think it's also about not looking back. We need something new, I think, to move forward. So there's no point in crying over spilt milk, basically. We have to keep looking forward and trust that what is following is what should be following. This is our hopes and fears position. This is obviously a hope. This is the Ten of Pentacles, which is the completion of the journey of materialism, wealth, money, establishing yourself in the world and having resources and so on. So the 10 is when, we've achieved, if you like, some stability, some security for ourselves and our families. You can see, the picture of the family here, which obviously I think we've all reassessed about how we feel about what's most important in our lives, and obviously families are very much to the fore of that. But this is also a card about creating something permanent and sustainable that you can pass on to the next generation. So I think, it's really about how do we make a world that we can pass on to our children. How can we create something lasting, stable and secure for future generations? So I think this is a card massively really about what are we going to leave for future generations. And we're at a big turning point, I feel, that even if you just use your thoughts to think about things, generally it's obvious that something's got to give. And I think the cards really, really reflect that. So, I feel that many of us now will be thinking about very much about future generations and what are we going to leave them with. So that's our hopes and our fears together. The Eight of Swords is sort of culminating the reading, although I have drawn another couple of cards to elucidate this. This is very much a card of realizing how our actions have contributed to where we are. We're it's a karmic card, if you like, and I think it's a moment of realization for all of us, the world, countries, nations, leaders, individuals, all together. I think, we realize our interdependence. We realize how we've ignored it at our peril. How we've been carrying on willy-nilly, not willing to change. And actually, I think the COVID-19 has shown us how quickly we can actually act, although some might say we didn't act fast enough. But nonetheless, massive changes brought in very quickly when we need to. So, the possibilities are there to change, the environmental issues that we face, for instance. So it's about the political will. But the Eight of Swords is very much a card of having hard choices, but those choices are being brought about by our actions, really, and we have to recognise that. So I thought, well, okay, that's a bit of a glum card to finish on. So I drew two more, and I drew Temperance, which is the card of feeling, and that is feeling as opposed to emotion. Emotion's all about kind of quickly passing things, sort of anger and love, and it's kind of a different quality to feeling, which is more steady, and there's a realm of feeling. And this is Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, and she's tipping water, which represents the world of feelings, from one cup to the other in this constant quest to balance the realm of feeling. So it's very much a sort of archetypally feminine card, and it's really all about constantly balancing and rebalancing, with the end goal being harmony and relationship. So I think, classically, if you like, or to date, I think that where was that card? Yeah, I mean, we've sort of been moving in a masculine driven world, if you like, which, you know, has produced all those sort of archetypal, I'm not saying women can't do it, but, you know, it's always traditionally seen as a masculine world of, you know, technology and, you know, sort of driven forward by the need to conquer, you know, that sort of very male conquering thing, you know, to conquer disease, you know, good things have come from it, you know, but also a lot of negative things. And I think this card represents coming back to the realm of the heart, if you like, the realm of using compassion and feeling to judge what is the right path. So in other words, it's like using judgment. I mean, I think, you know, we've had tremendous and amazing technological advances in our world, but have they always been wise? You know, I think that's what this card is saying. So, you know, I think we have to pause and reflect on that. And then ultimately we have the sun, which is actually represents the masculine principle. And it's about clarity and light. So, you know, we can't do it all with just the feminine principle. There has to be a balance. And I think this card is about that balance. So we need the technology. We need the positivity of the masculine realm, if you like, which creates and pushes forward, you know, with innovations and new ways of doing things and enlightenment, clarity of vision, using the mind very much. But it must be balanced. It must be balanced with this quality of feeling, so that the end result is not all. I mean, so the end result isn't just the end result. The end result has to serve a purpose, and that purpose has to be harmony and relationship between individuals, between countries, between leaders, between organizations. We have to make this masculine principle serve the feminine, which is about, yes, squaring the circle, if you like, you know, to bring some element of care, compassion and judgment into this headlong forward rush for development. So I think that's what the cards have to say for 2020, going along through and out the other end, hopefully, of COVID-19. If you have found something in this reading that chimes with you, and you please do leave a like or a subscribe, or have a look below and you'll see my email address if you'd like to have an online personal reading. I'd be delighted to do that for you. So until we speak again, wishing you all the very best. Stay safe and well. Bye bye.